everybody. Welcome to another week of the show before the show presented by Your Fielder's Choice. Once again, my name is John Maffa. I'm joined by Devin Frank and Mike Mislinski, and we're here to give you all the breaking news, review some past lineups from the week before, and get you all set for that show on Sunday, live before kickoff with Your Fielder's Choice, and get you into that main slate and win some money here. Once again, head over to yourfielderschoice.com. We got a beautiful promotion running right now, $25 for your first 2 months. And that gives you access to everything, the cheat sheets, all the sports, prize picks articles, the premium Discord where you can hit up people like Devin and Miz in the chat and ask them direct questions, talk with other members and see winning lineups. What's going on, guys? You guys ready for week 3 or what?
Absolutely. Ready for this shit weather to go away. It's just disgusting all across the country and including in Ohio here.
Yeah, it's raining over here too.
I'm super psyched for it. I got my popcorn ready for the show.
A la T.O., I can respect that.
And we can talk about Rondell Moore all show if you want.
Hey, big win, by the way, for those Ravens. I did not see that coming.
Oh, yeah. Somebody on this show did.
Yeah, you did, and we laughed at that call.
Yeah, I know. That was my one shining moment last week.
We'll talk about them.
Yeah, let's get into some news here. Go over the power rankings. This week kind of had it all, right? You had upsets, you had drama, you had some blowouts. It was an exciting week in the NFL, and honestly, if you look at the power rankings, it shows, because this is totally different than last week. Starting with number 1, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, previously at number 2. They are the top dog as of this week, with the Chiefs losing to the Ravens in heartbreaking fashion. No surprise there. Bucs, defending Super Bowl champs, 2-0. Tom Brady is rolling. The Bucs look pretty good.
Yeah, they probably should have been number 1 all along, considering they were the champs. I mean, they ripped off 9 in a row or something now, including the end of the last.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good as advertised. You know, even I had my doubts, and we talked about it on the first episode. Like, you know, they were not a very synchronous team in the beginning of last year, but once they started figuring out, they really started rolling, and that's like where they are now. I guess this is the team that everybody thought they would be, 12 months ago. So good for them. At number 2, we got the Rams coming in, NFC West. They were previously number 4. Again, they just look pretty good. Stafford seems like he's got new life. That offense is clicking. The receivers are doing well. Nothing really surprising there with the Rams being at number 2, given the way they've progressed this season.
And every pass is going to Cooper Kupp, that's for sure. Pretty much leads the league now. What targets?
I mean, we talked about it last week.
He catches everything, right?
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Stafford always has one guy, and it's clearly Cooper Kupp this year.
Yeah,
we play him every week.
Following up at number 3, we got the Chiefs, obviously previously number 1. Had that heartbreaking loss on Sunday night to the Ravens. CEH coming up with that fumble late was just a dagger if you were on the Chiefs, at least money line, or just a Chiefs fan in general. But yeah, Chiefs and the number 3, I don't think, that's really too alarming or even harsh. They're 1-1. They'll be just fine. Patrick Mahomes is still a certified freak. He balled out on Sunday night too. I don't think they'll fall out of that top 5 anytime soon.
They'll be there all season. I do have questions about their defense, though. I don't think that defense is that good. They can't stop the run.
I agree with that. I mean, Lamar is really good, so using him as a grain of salt there.
And the Browns' run game is really good too.
Exactly.
Fairness.
Yeah. Who they got this week? Oh, they got Eckler and the Chargers. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens there. At number 4, we got the 49ers. Previously at number 9, Niners in a very lackluster game against the Eagles, but they got the job done on the road. Also probably sacrificed another 2 or 3 running backs. It is insane. Can't catch a break there, but they're at number 4. And I think they're in for a good matchup this week against the Green Bay Packers. on Sunday Night Football. I'm excited for that one, not just because I'm a fan, just because those two teams should put on a good show.
Look out for on your waiver wires in the deepest of leagues, or if you got really long benches, Jacquez Patrick, running back, former XFL superstar, is on the Bengals practice squad. Average 5 yards a carry in both not the preseason this season, but also in the XFL. And he catches passes, and he's a huge dude. He's huge. So
Jacquez Patrick, huh?
Yeah.
How
So
deep
look up
is
for
your
that guy.
league? Are you in like a 16-team league?
The FFPC leagues online, they are 20-man rosters, 12 teams. So it's tough. So and it's $1,000 fab budget. So it's very tough. If you want to get somebody, you got to go get them, and you better make sure that they're worth it, because every dollar counts, and there's not a lot out there when it does hit the wire. So
Yeah.
deepest of leagues, go pick them up.
That sounds like a stressful league to be in, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
stressed in
online.
my
They're tough.
12-man,
They're extremely tough.
Yeah, 16 roster league. All right, number 5, we got the Bills moving on up from where they were last week. I forget where they were last week. I actually don't have it written down here, but they were below number 5. They had that slip up week 1, absolutely manhandle the Dolphins this week, even though Tua had an injury, but I don't think anybody's surprised either way, if Tua plays or not, that they win that game. So Bills back where they are at number 5.
Oh,
Yep,
I mean,
it
is
was a
Tua
good
soft or what?
Yeah. I don't think he's ever going to be
I don't know if I'm in any position to call any professional athlete soft.
No, I know I'm soft. So
But
I'm just
it's-
trying to, and I think he's soft. So I'm asking you guys for confirmation.
I mean, I think injury prone is a real thing.
Yeah.
And I
Either
think,
that or it's just plain old bad luck.
yeah,
Maybe a little bit of both,
You're soft.
Yeah.
very soft.
At number 6, where they belong, the Seattle Seahawks, blowing that
Yes.
game to the Tennessee Titans. I loved every second of that fourth quarter. I think the Titans at one point had a 4% probability of winning, and they did, a la Derrick Henry. But the Seahawks coming in at number 6 there, previously from number 3, which we stated last week, I thought was a little bit of a reach. I wasn't overly impressed with their win over the Colts. I mean, the Colts are a good team, but I don't think if you beat them, you automatically bumped up to the top 3. So Seahawks in at number 6 there.
Yep, that's more appropriate for who they are. And, they're a good team, but they were not the 3rd best team,
Yeah,
in the league.
exactly. And
Derrick
then coming in at number
Henry.
7, another NFC West team, the Arizona Cardinals. That makes all 4 teams in the NFC West in this top 7. We all know that's a good division, but it's pretty impressive that, all those teams are doing pretty well.
You've got 9. Wow. So of the top 9, 7 of them are from 2 divisions, because you've got, I guess the Steelers aren't in there. So the 6 of them, because you've got the Browns and the Ravens.
Yep.
And then you got 4 from the other division. That's nuts.
Yeah. Definitely a top heavy league, I guess, in terms of divisions.
Yeah, it is.
Not too many NFC East teams in there, but it's early.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
is.
they all those teams have been good for the last few years. So
Yep.
it only makes sense.
Yeah, they got a good core. They're deep. A lot of those teams. The Rams, as you know, sold their soul and their draft picks for all their players, so they'll be good for a little while until that all catches up with them contracts wise. Coming at number 8 is your guys, Dev, the Browns, previously at number 6. So despite getting the win, they moved down a little bit. No surprise there. They beat up on the Texans. I don't think that would get them any brownie points. No.
No Landry probably hurts a little bit for, a couple of weeks. So I'm okay. That's an understandable drop, but I do think their ceiling is much higher than the 8th best team, obviously.
And do we know what Odell's deal is?
Not yet. It's been week to week. They're being really cautious with him, which is the smart move.
Yeah. Up at number 9 from number 10 is the Baltimore Ravens, your boys, Miz. How about that? All 3 of our teams in the top 10. Gotta love that.
Yeah,
Hopefully
cool.
we're having this conversation in January too. Yeah, they had a great win on Sunday night, really battled back there. that touchdown immediately off the bat, I thought it was gonna be a blowout, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But they hung in there, and they capitalized on mistakes. They ran all over the Chiefs, like Dev mentioned. Good game overall from the Ravens.
It's funny that they completely revamped the line. So they had Andres Villanueva, whatever,
Yep.
USAA Insurance. They moved him back over to the left side because Stanley went down, right? And then you guys all saw on the broadcast, about like how he was trying to explain what it's like going from the left tackle to right tackle. It's like it's like trying to like learn to ride a bike for the first time. And moved him back to the left, and he went from like the worst lineman rating via PFF to the very best. And it showed like throughout, like everybody got into the right places. It's crazy how just different that is. You would never think that, everybody's, grows up playing Madden, right? Just put the best players in the best spots in the line and all that kind of good stuff. It's really much harder than that. So I give them a lot of credit for hanging in there and figuring it out and sticking it out for a tough win, because nobody thought.
And luckily for you as a fan, they figured it out in week 2.
Right.
Not in week 12 when they're scraping for a wild card,
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what happens with them moving forward. I mean, they're a good team. So, and they're well coached. Nobody ever doubts Harbaugh in that fashion. So I can tell you like my confidence in Shanahan, and I've had confidence in other coaches. Like when you have a good coach, it's like, you can figure it out.
Yeah, it's good. It's fine.
Yeah. All right, in at number 10 here, up from number 19, is the Las Vegas Raiders. I would say it like Chris Berman, but I would be embarrassing myself. That's what's in my head playing right now. Raiders in, shocking the world again, being up on Pittsburgh on the road. I couldn't believe that. What do you think about these Raiders? Are they for real?
I still want to doubt them, but yeah,
Nope.
I mean,
But they have another easy matchup this week too, I think. I think they have a very winnable game this week. I forget who it is.
It's hard to look at Hunter Renfrow and Brian Edwards and Ruggs, who can only run deep, and get excited, but they just
they're playing the Dolphins at home this week with no Tua.
Yeah, that's good though.
We should take care of business.
I was gonna say it's just I don't know what their schedule looks like overall, but I doubt it's really all that difficult. It's not like they were a good team last year. So I would imagine they have some winnable games, much like the Carolina Panthers, who I'm surprised aren't on this list in the top 10. Not like they're impressing or beating impressive teams, but they are playing pretty well. I would put them in the same tier as the Raiders.
You got Broncos as well, kind of the same thing. Haven't really beat anybody yet, but they've taken care of business and looked pretty strong.
Yeah, all those teams are teams that I would not be surprised if they make the playoffs and then also have an early exit. That's kind of like what they are, in my opinion.
The Raiders caught us on when we had a makeshift line. Okay, so everybody had free reins, right? And the Steelers legit have a bad line, like a very bad line. Big Ben has a hurt boob, and TJ Watt's out. So I mean, that makes sense why they won, but they're probably. I bet you they lose the Dolphins.
I was
bet not right.
Really, really surprised.
You don't have to bet us, dude. You have a whole segment for that. You can.
No, I know.
Right.
I'm just going to do it outright.
3.5, I think the line is at the moment, but we'll get to that later. All right, moving on to some news from the past week. Just some headlines that have popped up that may be of interest to some people. Dalvin Cook did not partake in today's Wednesday's practice. Ankle injury. He went down 2 times, I'm pretty sure, on Sunday, which is alarming for season-long owners, but also anybody who played him in DFS for that given day, because he's always coming in at a high price tag. The did not practice tag is a little concerning, but according to Mike Zimmer, he basically said like Dalvin's a tough guy. If he can go, he can go. So I don't know what you make of this, but it is something just to note. Did not practice.
Just gonna have to keep an eye on it. He did end up playing a little bit at the end of that game. So my guess is he plays, but there's a lot of news that's going to completely change the slate if some of these guys end up being out. He would certainly be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, if for DFS purposes, enter Alexander Madison as your chalk play in cash lineups for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this happened last year, 1 week, I'm pretty sure, right? I think he missed a game last year.
Yeah.
Madison didn't even end up doing that well, but like you had to play him. Everybody was playing him, especially in cash. So makes sense. On to the Buccaneers here. Your boy, Ms. Antonio Brown, was put on the COVID-19 list. Doesn't mean he's going to miss Sunday, but he does have to pass 2 COVID tests within a 24-hour span, right? Or 24 hours apart from each other. And they're about 4 or 5 days out from game time. So potential there that he could miss if he doesn't hit that deadline in time.
It's unlikely that he plays. And the real issue here with Tampa Bay, we've talked about it before. When Brown is playing, is which receiver you're going to go with. We saw it last week. Antonio Brown was amazing first week. He didn't do anything second week. So you would think him being out would clear it up a little bit. But now the issue is they're facing the Rams. You got Jalen Ramsey's going to shadow one of Godwin or Evans. And unless we get a hard answer as to which one of those he is shadowing, it's going to be tough to play those guys as well, because, Ramsey is arguably the best in the league and very capable of shutting down one of these guys. The other guy is probably going to go nuts. So,
and if I'm the Rams, why would I in any way, shape, or form let you know which guy
exactly
is gonna, so
exactly?
It's good.
I don't think he's going to.
You don't think he will?
No, I think he'll just, unless they need him to,
take a
I
side.
don't think they'll start. Yeah, he'll just play as he would normally play. Whatever call they make and he lines up in that particular spot, that's probably where he's going to play, unless they need him to do something special, or they're running some kind of special package or something. But I just think they're going to keep it normal and see what happens, because they're all so good.
Oh yeah.
But if not, it would be an Antonio Brown week if he was playing.
Does this put you on Scotty Miller at all?
No, because Tom Brady doesn't care. Tom Brady doesn't care about Scotty Miller. I'm telling you, he makes sure that all these guys get fed. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, I mean, he did it last week. He purposely looked at Mike Evans, literally the first play of the game he threw to him.
I mean, you got to keep the wide receivers happy, right? That's like the main thing there. They're the divas, so keep them happy. Moving over to the AFC, AJ Brown was limited in Wednesday's practice with a knee injury. I don't think this is more news. It's just, noise.
That's been lingering since last year. He had surgery on him.
Yeah, I also read that he's yet to log a full practice on a Wednesday this entire year. So not really shocking there. He should be fine.
And I do want to note on AJ Brown owners like myself and seasonal, don't panic. His error yard numbers are very, very good. He's getting opportunities. He got a bunch of targets last week. He dropped 2 very, very catchable balls. He'll be fine. He's still getting the targets, even with Julio there. Don't panic on AJ Brown.
Sounds like he qualifies for a "Don't be a goldfish" section.
He does.
And other wide receiver news, DeAndre Hopkins did not practice today, Wednesday, with a rib injury. He's always seems to be banged up with minor injuries and fights through them, but he's through the first 2 weeks here, he's got 10 catches for 137 yards. Very un-Hopkins like for him. We'll see. We obviously like Rondell Moore. Does that mean he's the guy to play if you're playing a Cardinals wide receiver this week?
And you better.
Wow, you better, he says. Okay. Careful, Miz. These things stay on the internet forever.
I know. You got to go out on a limb.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the dynamic there. I mean, D-Hop is nowhere near, quote unquote, on the tail end or done, but Rondell Moore is an explosive guy. So you got to imagine they'll start feeding him more and more as he starts to make these big plays. And it started last week apparently. So we'll see. On the running back front, we got Josh Jacobs with an ankle injury. He remains sidelined at Wednesday's practice. We'll see what happens this week if he plays or not against the Dolphins. Last week, Kenyon Drake got about 71% of the snaps. But what was a little bit more alarming for anybody who played Kenyon Drake thinking he was going to ball out was that Peyton Barber got 29%, which was a little bit more than probably people would have liked. Does this impact any of your decisions? On the Oakland running back situation? Would you even consider the Oakland running back situation if Josh Jacobs isn't on the field? Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah, I stayed away last week. I probably do the same this week.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see, I would never play Peyton Barber. If somebody wants to play Peyton Barber, go for it. Have fun with that. Kenyon Drake's definitely good enough to put up good fantasy points, or a good amount of fantasy points rather. So I can see using him if he's like 4.7 or 4.8K, but if not, well,
move on. Don't get cute.
Yeah.
And then finally, I don't know if this even matters because I don't think their offense matters, but Jameson Crowder did not practice Wednesday. He suffered a setback last Friday with this groin injury. Week 1, he was on the COVID list. Week 2, he's got the groin injury. Doesn't really seem to be going Jameson Crowder's way. He is kind of a beast when he's healthy, obviously. We've never seen him play with Wilson, so who knows, but he can be a factor, a DFS factor, especially low owned and low priced for GPPs occasionally if the matchup's right. But just throwing it out there that he didn't practice again Wednesday, so we're not sure if we'll even see him.
I have Corey Davis in seasonal, and I'm not starting him this week. So didn't start him last week either. That's going to be I'm only touching Jets if it's a fantastic matchup.
Yeah. I don't think anything probably drove that home more than last week's debacle against the Patriots.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Yeah. So that wraps it up for news and notes and power rankings. Let's get into one of our, favorite sections here. Don't be a goldfish. Let's pass it over and look at some of the players that, maybe
be a goldfish.
You're right. Let's be a goldfish and forget that last sentence ever came out of my mouth and rewind it back.
You know what the happiest animal on earth is? It's a goldfish. You know why?
No.
It's got a 10-second memory. Be a goldfish, Sam. Yeah?
Let's move into our next section here called Be a Goldfish, where we examine some of the good players in the league that kind of dudded or under, I don't know what I'm losing.
Performed expectations.
There you go. Underperformed their expectations. So number 1 on my list, Alvin Kamara came in at a price of 8,800, was 15% owned in GPPs, dropped a nice 7 spot in the points column. Alvin Kamara, be a goldfish for sure. Guy's a freak. I don't know if you play him this week, but he's definitely not somebody that should just be off your radar.
Right. Yeah. And it's really because of all the Saints there's like 8 coaches out. I totally blame it on that. I totally blame that game on that.
100%. 100%. I mean, you wouldn't think position coaches matter that much, but they do. And it was evident, literally 8 position coaches. So if I'm a Saints fan or as a DFS player, I'm throwing that game out and I'm not worrying about it. Alvin will be just fine.
Yeah, I didn't do any research on this, but if we went back and looked at how many 7-point or sub 10-point games he has in his career, I'm sure it's a very low number.
Yeah, not very many.
Yeah. On that front, moving over to the quarterback side, we got Dak Prescott, lit the world up week 1, dropping maybe close to 30 points, maybe over. But this week or week 2, he came in at $6,800, 10% owned in GPPs, and dropped in 8.48 points. with his performance. I think Dak Prescott's a good quarterback, especially when we're talking fantasy and DFS. He qualifies here for be a goldfish. I'm not too alarmed by this.
That was like a 10% chance of that outcome happening, and that's what happened.
It was a
You play that game 100.
Yeah.
Right. You play that game 100 times, he's scoring 30 points more than half the time.
Yeah, it was flag heavy. There was no rhythm for either offense because of the flags, and so Cowboys ended up just running the ball. It was working, so they stuck with it.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it was just the game script just didn't really pan out for him. They didn't really have to kind of score. They just had to kind of hang in there. Like you said, they were running the ball with both Pollard and Zeke in that game. Couple missed opportunities on both the Dallas side and the Chargers side. Chargers had like 2 touchdowns called back. If they score those 2 touchdowns, that's now forcing Dak and the Dallas Cowboys to kind of rev up their engines and get going. And like I said, it didn't really fall into place for them. So yeah, again, Dak Prescott, be a goldfish for sure. I'll be on him moving forward in this season. On the Seattle side, DK Metcalf, 11.3 points, not that bad. However, he came in at a high price point at 7,600. So in that price range, 11.3 points is not going to cut it. He was 11.2% owned in big GPP pools. Again, DK Metcalf, freak of nature, athlete. I'm probably Seattle's #1 hater, and I can say that he is awesome. I'm putting him in the be a goldfish category.
Lockett did this last year too, where it kind of came out, was going nuts the first few weeks, and then DK ended up being the more consistent play. He'll be fine. Like you said, dude's a freak. Just this same thing happened last year. So yep, don't give up on DK. He'll be just fine.
Question for you. Are you guys worried in the Seattle offense if we're approaching a situation like Tampa Bay where you have Lockett and you have Metcalf and it's going to be like one or the other, rarely both? Or are you not looking at it that way, at least not yet?
In terms of cash games, that's a different story. But in terms of GPPs, I'd stack all 3 of them. Maybe throw AB on the other side, AB and Gronk, something like that. It's gonna be an expensive stack, but depending on the week and what they've done prior, you could get some value.
I'm not a big.
They'll abandon the run for sure.
Yeah,
they'll do what Dallas did.
Yeah, I'm not an overly big Seattle guy in cash, anyways, because I don't like the way they call plays is really inconsistent.
Well,
some weeks they let Russ cook, and then the next week it's all running, and they don't typically garner a ton of ownership, anyways. So yeah, there's some worries, but I think DK is he'll find his way.
And to clarify, Miz, I think you're confusing your NFC West teams. The Seahawks are actually playing the Vikings this week in Minnesota.
Oh yeah, even better.
Yeah. And the Vikings are by no means the purple people eaters, so should be just fine there. Staying in that division, this guy has kind of been a little underperforming as far as DFS goes over the last 2 weeks. George Kittle coming in at $6,400, 7.9% owned, dropped 5.9 points. He's been a little underwhelming. However, he's still a big piece of that offense. I think Debo's been kind of taking over and balling out a little bit. Kittle will get his, but again, I don't think it's anything to be too concerned with here. But I did feel like he should make this list.
You could get Kittle. Kittle's never really a cash play because he's kind of overpriced every week. In all reality, when you have, Waller's usually in the same kind of price range, you're going to go Waller due to targets.
I was going to say Waller doubles his targets almost every game.
Yes.
I feel like. So
that makes Kittle just a perfect GPP play all season long because he's got immense upside. He can break it any point. So definitely do not be afraid. Do not hesitate to get Kittle in a GPP literally every week because he has massive upside.
And that's the mentality people probably have. Right? Once you break that high 6 range or that mid 6 range, you're looking at those guys like Waller and even Kelsey, and you're like,
Kelsey, yeah.
If I'm going to spend money on a tight end, I'm going to go with the guy that I know is going to get me 20 points, or I know is going to, whatever, ball out.
Kittle's always going to come in at the lowest owned of those guys, but he has similar upside. So you can get that upside for cheaper and a very low ownership. So makes him a great GPP play.
Yep. And then again, sticking in the tight end vein and in the NFC West, Tyler Higbee, 4,100, 14.6% ownership, 1.8 points. This was a little bit of a dud. I know we spoke about him on the show on Sunday as a potential. Was it cash? I think we mentioned.
He was cash
it.
play. Yep.
Yeah, so he kind of was a little bit of a disappointment, but again, I think he's part of a good offense. I think he's part of a rejuvenated offense with Matt Stafford, and I think he'll find his way.
The thing about Higbee is he's still out there for almost all the plays. Again, I have to go back and look, but I believe he was in there blocking a lot more this week than he was last week. I got to double check that, so don't quote me on that. But the targets weren't there this week. It's just a little bit more of a focused game for them. I mean, Robert Woods really didn't get much either, you know. So with all the success that Cooper Kupp was having, I mean, it's just variance. So people are going to be off of him because of that. But he's still the same good play this week that he was last week and the week before.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's worth throwing in there. What about any love for Robert Woods?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to get going. Robert Woods didn't just stop being good. I mean, we did talk about how much Matt Stafford loves a wide receiver, but there's room for Woods to get going as well. And he's actually a cash play this week because his price is way down because he hasn't done a ton. So you can definitely don't overly panic on Woods. Now, if we get another game, then, you know, then maybe we got to start looking into some more, but Robert Woods is a good receiver. So I'm not panicking there yet.
Yeah. No,
Something on that is it's only been 2 games. So
Yeah.
we really don't know that much. We probably know less than we think we do because these teams are going to change and evolve throughout the season. So it's not going to be like this every week, obviously, but people need a reminder to know that thing. It's like a pendulum. Things swing back and forth and in a little bit different directions in this case. So don't sleep on Robert Woods this week.
Dude, I don't know about you.
Or moving forward.
All I got out of that segment that you just said is a potential T-shirt that says the show before the show, and on the back it says, "We don't know as much as we think we do."
Nice.
What a quote.
That is perfect.
Higbee
that wraps
massive
up.
snaps, by the way. I just checking on your snap count on Higbee, and he's out there all
It's
the
almost
time.
100. Yeah, it's almost.
Yeah,
100.
I think it is 100%.
Wow.
Him and Logan Thomas.
There you go. 100. Throw it up. Walks away from the camera.
We'll start with the DraftKings section here. Again, and to clarify, we talked about this last week. These plays are all on the cheat sheet, and they're all listed as cash plays. So cash play on cheat sheet, you'll see them listed as cash/GPP, value, or punt. The GPP plays are listed only as GPP. So what you're seeing here is only guys that fell into the cash category on our cheat sheet. So it ends up being only a handful of players at each position. And you can see that it ended up with a monster score of 215 that cashes in every contest across the board, all cash games, all GPPs, very high in GPPs as well. So, these cheat sheets are amazing, and you can see that it was all, again, these are all cash plays. So we weren't going these crazy, super low owned plays, and we still put up a monster score. So that's something to keep in mind, even for GPP builds, that you don't necessarily have to get crazy. You can build a quality lineup based on an 1% owned, still do really well. So just looking at that DraftKings lineup real quick, we've got Tom Brady. We had a bunch of the guys in that we talked on the live show Sunday about that 6K range. What do you know? Tom Brady, 6'9", right in that range we talked about, ends up being on the optimal cash lineup for our cheat sheet. Najee Harris was our chalk play. Darrell Henderson was listed as a value. Cooper Kupp, we talked about at length all week. And he was in every article, every live show. This show last week, we talked about him. Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett. Noah Fant was one of those plays. He was the very top tight end on the cheat sheet for DraftKings. Again, his price made too much sense, the matchup. Rob Gronkowski at flex. You're not going to do that very often, doing a flex of a tight end. But this is 2 weeks in a row now. Last week we saw a receiver in the flex. This week we see a tight end in the flex. So I think we all need to get away a little bit from the feeling that you have to run 3 running backs, because it's a pass heavy league. So
It definitely feels weird. Maybe not so
does.
much with wide receiver, but it definitely feels weird when you do 2 tight ends. Like,
Yeah.
I've done it before and I'm like, well, this is a Hail Mary. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But if it pays off, I mean, look at if you told me on Sunday, you got to start Noah Fant and you got to start Rob Gronkowski in your cash lineup, I would have been like, Dev, let's pump the brakes. I know you're smart and all, and I trust you, but like, that's a little crazy.
Yeah. So, and you're not gonna, if you're watching, I'm not telling you to go rush and put a flex in, a tight end in the flex or a receiver in the flex. But I do think that, like I said, we need to kind of start to accept the fact that the league is becoming very, very pass heavy, and almost every team runs a dual running back setup. So that flex position, if you land on a receiver or a tight end that makes a ton of sense, I would say go for it. So,
right. Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm really interested to hear what Miz has to say about this. But we'll see.
We get Miz back, yeah.
If he ever decides to join us again. I don't know what happened. There he is. Hey, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
We're going to take a look now at the FanDuel lineup. We just went over the DraftKings lineup. Dev, same thing here, same type of mentality, pretty much.
Yeah. So on FanDuel, again, if you listen to the show Sunday, we talked about it. Kyler Murray, it just made sense to pay up for him. He wasn't, on DraftKings, that 6K range just made all the sense in the world. They were too cheap. On FanDuel, though, I talked about, Kyler Murray is not that much more expensive than, like a Dak was. So what do you know? Kyler Murray ends up being in the top lineup here. You got Najee, again, chalk play, Cooper Kupp, we talked about. Mike Williams and Tyler Lockett are on FanDuel, and we talked about this Sunday as well. Let's watch the Sunday show. There's a lot of good stuff on there. FanDuel, typically a player is more expensive than he is on DraftKings. Almost always. Kyler Murray was 8-7 on FanDuel, for instance. I think he was, low 8s on DraftKings. When you do see players who are cheaper on FanDuel than they are DraftKings, that's a pricing discrepancy you want to pay attention to. So Mike Williams was the perfect example of that this week. Both Miz and I ran him on FanDuel, despite the fact that Keenan Allen was the chalkier play. It just made sense to get a piece of that offense with the savings that Mike Williams offered, especially when you considered his price in comparison to DraftKings. You can see he's $500 less on FanDuel. So pay attention to those pricing discrepancies. You can see we do have the traditional running back in the flex here in this option. Now, this one did leave a lot of salary on the board, which we typically wouldn't do. If you were to make it so that you left minimum of 700, that's kind of what Miz and I always suggest, is don't leave any more than $700 on the board for cash lineups. Because again, it just, typically there's a place you can upgrade. If you're leaving, over $700, then you're most likely leaving potential on the board. So if you were to do minimum 700, you would end up with Kyler, Najee. You'd end up with the same lineup, but you'd end up with Nick Chubb at running back and the Patriots defense, and you would spend all of your salary, and that would score 201. So again, we talked about Chubb as well. These are all guys we talked about on the Sunday show.
I got a scenario for you.
Okay.
If I'm filling out my lineup and I have $700 left over, I guess sometimes people are in love with their lineup so much that they may just bulk up a defense, right? I got $700. Let me throw it on defense. Would you take that route, or would you rather like divvy that up and like maybe bump up a tier to somebody else? Because $700 towards one position could be, a next level up. Or if you even split it up into 3,500, whatever, or 350, I'm sorry, you may be able to get a little bit of a bump on a player. But, sometimes what ends up happening is it's like, you look at, I don't know, Noah Fant and Rob Gronkowski, and you're like in that range, right? And they're very similar players. The only person you'd want to go up to from them is, let's just say, it's a Kelsey, right? Obviously, that $700 is going to get you to Kelsey. So like sometimes you're like, well, rather than rebuild my whole lineup, I'll just bump up my defense. Are you more likely to do something like that, or are you willing to kind of like reshuffle the cards and see where the pieces land?
It's typically what I'm going to do. What I suggest, especially sport like NFL, where you have time. NBA is the one kind of example that you don't really have time. NBA can be like last second. We just got breaking news. You got 5 minutes to build. With NFL, MLB, sports like that, what I suggest is just tinker, play around, try different builds. Don't get, it's okay to have like your core you want to build around, but don't get overly locked into certain plays. Of course, build around, like Najee was a free spot last week. He should have been in every lineup you put in cash. Plug him in, move on. You know, he was going to be chalk. He was in a good matchup. He ended up doing really well. But you had a little flexibility at, say, wide receiver 3 or the flex position. Tinker, see what you see. If you love the rest of your lineup, then yeah, spend that money for defense.
And this leads me to another good point when you say tinker. And I know, Miz, you agree with this too, because we tell some of our buddies, like, they be doing this. When you are entering in your lineups, you should be doing this on a computer and not your phone.
Yeah, 100% every time. Now you can do both. You can have like all of your stuff up on your computer and then like actually like fiddle with your phone or whatever a little bit, just to get a break in between the two things. But really, you should be doing all of this on your computer because you can just see more. There's more available to you. You don't have to go back and forth switching things, the apps and all that. It's nonsense.
Yeah, more screen real estate. You can look up things.
Right.
It's a lot easier.
If you're serious about this, you should be building it on your computer.
Yeah, and DraftKings specifically, they give you the tools they encourage you to do it. They let you download the rosters in a CSV file, which you can upload into an Excel sheet or a Google sheet. That's actually how I do my lineups. I know you've seen it, Miz. Like I put all my stuff in a sheet and I do week by week and I tinker, like Devin says, and I make all my stuff in the sheet and you can move it around. It's so much easier, to the point where sometimes when I'm forced to enter in lineups, like if I'm traveling or if I'm, at a family event or something, like, and I have to use my phone, I'm handicapped. I'm like, this sucks. I'd rather not play. I need my laptop.
Right. Exactly. 100%.
Looking down here, I don't know if you guys had a chance to look this over, but this was the winning Millie Maker lineup. Pretty interesting. Also not, too shocking on some of the names here. Brady, obviously. I was a little surprised that Fournette made it in there, but again, you got to have some low ownership plays, and he fits that mold. Also, Marvin Jones Jr. in the flex, Dev.
Wide receiver again.
Yeah, low owned receiver in the flex too, and he didn't even really ball out. Like if you look at his stats,
nope.
He got 17 points. He got 1 TD, 55 yards, and 6 receptions. Like, that's all it takes. That's like all you need. But because of his low ownership, I think it says 4% there.
Yeah.
And his ability, and his price tag, which was 4,700. Like, that's it. You're golden there. Because now you just need your big dogs to perform, like Brady and Derrick Henry, who balled out, obviously. But yeah, it's just a interesting thing. I think, as we look at these Millie Maker lineup winners over the course of the season, you'll see more stuff like this rather than your traditional, 2 running backs and a running back in the flex.
Yep.
That's
funny. If you look at that, a lot of those were cash plays this week. That wasn't even a crazy lineup. Ronda Moore is a guy we've talked about, before already. Lockett, Cup was chalk.
Yep.
And funny thing is, somebody could have beat him just with a simple change of the defense, drop to the Bears for $100 less, and you beat that lineup by a couple points. Yeah.
And if you look at the Cardinals defense, they got 1 point. You don't have to, you don't have to blow the doors off of every play you have. You do have a little leeway there on any given week. And the total score there was 233, which is pretty damn high. So if you can drop 233 on a lineup, good for you. But
that cash that we went over scored 215. So that shows you how
The
Even
disparity
quality
is not
that-
much.
Yeah, that just even cash plays can get you a really good lineup.
Oh, you didn't know?
All right, let's move on to this next section where we look at some of the next gen stats called "Oh, You Didn't Know." I pulled out some interesting stats from week 2 provided by the NFL. Kind of goes with the theme of the weeks, so to say. So first one is Aaron Rodgers completed 20 of 24 passes for 246 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 149 when the Lions did not blitz. What does this mean? If you are not rushing Aaron Rodgers, he is going to carve you up, basically. So if you are looking at playing Aaron Rodgers and you're looking at teams that have, or he's playing teams that have a weak, rush edge or pass attack, that's your moneymaker right there. That's what I got out of this stat. If he's going to have time in that pocket and you're going up against a shitty defensive line, see you later, Miz. It was nice talking with you. That is where you wanna be.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why my video went out. However, it's pretty crazy that all his passes went to Aaron Jones, though.
Yeah. Good thing
Yeah,
I had
look-
done seasonal.
I was gonna say
Me too.
little
Me
alarming
too.
as
He was
as
my
an
number 5
Adams
running
owner.
back.
Wow.
As an Adams owner, I was a little hurt to see that. I needed like 40 points on Monday night. I had Adams as well as 2 other guys, including DeAndre Swift, and I was like, this is so in reach, and didn't even come close.
Nope.
On to another Hall of Famer, Tom Brady, who threw 5 touchdown passes, tied Dan Marino for the second longest streak of consecutive regular season games with at least 4. Brady has thrown 4+ touchdowns in 4 straight games dating back to last season. Peyton Manning had a streak of 5 such games, which I believe is the record in 2004. So do we think Brady does it this week? Him and Peyton have that unofficial/official rivalry. You think he knows this stat? I don't know if he does or not.
Yeah,
but
he does.
yeah, he definitely does. So you think he's trying to capitalize there?
He definitely is, but it's a tough matchup for him.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Make sure those listening, make sure you read. I do a Monday morning reactions article, and Tom Brady was one of my main points today. He is actually on pace for his best statistical season of all time. This is the GOAT we're talking about, and he's 45 years old, and he is on pace for his best season of all time. It's insanity.
Unbelievable. He looks like he's getting younger too. It's insane.
He physically looks better the older he gets.
I know.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
He's had work done, though.
Oh, okay. He also gets hit by 300-pound men.
Yeah, for sure. But he's definitely had work done. He had like that jaw surgery where he makes it more, pronounced. He has all
Yeah,
that
I'm
shit.
supposed
It's
to get
crazy.
that done next year. We'll see how
Yeah,
it works.
that's on all of our list.
All right, this next stat has no relevance to fantasy at all. I just need to stick it to some people. So the Titans had a 4% chance of winning the game with 13 minutes left, and they ended up doing so. So suck it, Seattle fans. Sorry, Walt, if you're watching.
Nice.
Good one.
I had to throw that in there just because it feels good to say.
And I actually think they got screwed. That Julio overturned. That was a touchdown.
That was a touchdown.
That was a touchdown.
His heel was in the end zone, and there was green in between his cleat. He was wearing like the blue and pink cleats.
I heard an explanation of why. If he would have tapped or dragged, it would have been a touchdown. That's stupid. That was a touchdown. If we're not calling that a touchdown, then it's a waste of time. That was
These things don't make sense to me.
Exactly.
Another stat here out of Sunday's games. Chargers running back Austin Eckler had 18 routes run from the backfield, 3 from the slot, and 3 from out wide. Reason why I included this in is because just Austin Eckler, when he's playing a full game and he's not injured, he's great if you are counting PPR here, right? So obviously DFS, that counts in your season longs. He is just a reception machine as far as running backs go. That's what makes him so valuable.
Yeah.
The Alvin Kamara role, Joe Lombardi's offense.
Yep.
As long as he's a couple weeks removed from the and so you can feel a little bit better about him. This year he does every single year, but for now, he can be on your radar with confidence.
Another stat here, Zach Wilson was 15 of 23 for 132 yards and 4 interceptions when not under pressure. The poor Jets, man. You could throw the Giants in there.
Sorry,
too.
the
New
fucking
York did
sorry
not have a
ass
good showing
franchise.
this week. But
They're
Zach
so
Wilson,
fucking sorry. They're so sorry.
it's tough, man. It's getting to a point where I don't even want to make fun of them anymore. It's like they just know. The Jet fans know, man. This is your future here.
They talked to him about, the coaching staff talked to him after the game about not always going for the home run and the flashy play, because a lot of those he just was trying too much. Just take what the defense gives you, especially when you're not under pressure. That's a staggering stat. I mean, that should not.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Should not be a stat that we're reading.
Yeah, but hey, man, Zach Wilson can throw to his left on the run while wearing shorts and a tank top at the combine. So
Yeah, that's right.
Pick, so
Yeah.
gotta love him.
That's hot
And
mom.
finally, finally, Deebo Samuel's 282 receiving yards in weeks 1 and 2 are the second most by a 49ers player in the first 2 weeks of a season since Jerry Rice did that at 285 in 1989. So pretty cool to see, or pretty cool for any player to be mentioned in the same breath as Jerry Rice. This is by no means me saying Deebo Samuel is Jerry Rice, but just more of a stat and a tip of the cap to him on how he's balling out after he had a down year filled with injuries and letdowns last year.
Now, question for you as a 49ers fan. If you own, say if you're me, and you were super high on Brandon Ayuk coming into the season, and you drafted him in seasonal, so you drop him?
I don't know, man. Like, so I have Ayuk and Deebo on different teams in different leagues, obviously. I haven't actually been playing either of them. I've had Deebo on my bench just because of the way the chips fall. I have I think Cooper Kupp and maybe DJ Moore. So I wasn't playing him over them, at least not right now. Maybe now, because he's showing a little consistency. And then Ayuk, I started him week 1. He put up a fat 0, and then he basically got the same thing this week. Like
one or two catches.
Yeah, one catch, I believe.
I would trade for him.
You can't play Ayuk right now, but I also don't think you should cut him either. I think he'll find his way.
I just that was more so for our listeners, because you're a 49ers fan, you watch them very closely. You're gonna have some nice insight on that.
Yeah. If you look at the Niners offense, really nobody's balling out except Deebo. So like we mentioned Kittle before, Garoppolo is Garoppolo at this point. Their running backs are a mess. So yeah, I think they'll figure it out eventually. I think Ayuk is not a 0-point guy. He is talented. He's good. He's the deep play threat. Deebo gets a lot of the creative plays. He's in the backfield. He's running sweeps. He's coming around the edge. That sort of stuff. He's also a hard runner, which is why I personally love him. But he attacks the tacklers. It's an interesting dynamic. Once they could figure out the relationship that all those guys have and how they fit into the offense, I think they can be really, really sharp moving forward. And then Trey Lance in the wings, he just is a whole nother element that he can add to that offense. I'm excited about it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, speaking of players that we like, let's move into this next section where we go over some love hates. This is must or dust. I'm going to shout out a couple of names at you guys, and you just take them as I say them, and let me know if it's a must play or a dust play. So I'm going to start first with a guy that had a tough Sunday night. That is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH of the Kansas City Chiefs.
So I'm gonna add a little context to this play. I actually hated the draft pick. He wasn't very good last year. He was battling injuries. He hasn't looked very good this year. But the Chargers are allowing 162 yards per game on the ground. And CEH has played 69% of the team's snaps so far, which is, that's about 15th highest. So, he's getting a lot of looks. But what I want to clarify is that right now, especially on DraftKings, he's only 4,800. So this is a pricing play and a good matchup. If some of these other running backs end up being out, then he will not be a must for me. If we end up getting, some value elsewhere, then I would come off of him. But right now we need value. CEH comes in at 4,800. I mentioned what the Chargers are giving up on the ground. That's a ton. They're going to have to try to stop Hill and Kelsey. And in a plus matchup, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if he's ever going to have a good game, it's a week like this.
So you're calling him a must as long as his ownership is low and it warrants the play, the contrarian play, pretty much.
Well, right now he's projected to be one of the higher owned values simply because there's not a ton on the board.
Okay.
But again, this is kind of, if Darrell Henderson's out, I would much rather play Sonny Michel, who had a really good game and limited snaps and is even cheaper. Another name I also like, especially GPPs, I just want to throw this out here, is Felton for the Browns. Most likely is going to play some receiver, and he was fantastic in the preseason. And he came in last game and scored a touchdown and looked fantastic as well.
Okay, interesting. Let's throw out another name here, Alvin Kamara.
So he makes my hate list.
Before you get into it, we're loving or musting CH and dusting / hating Alvin Kamara this week.
So CH is a must. Alvin Kamara is dust.
It sounds weird. It sounds weird to say that.
It does. And it's for the reasons. So we talked about him in Goldfish. We straight up said he's going to get going, but he's still expensive. The offense didn't look great this week. They get the Patriots. The Patriots what do the Patriots do defensively? They take away one weapon on the opposing offense. Well, without Michael Thomas, who does that leave? Who are the Patriots going to take away? They're going to take away Alvin Kamara. So knowing the Patriots' history, I see them just game planning, literally make anybody else beat us. And for that reason, that's why I'm off of Alvin Kamara.
And before, people see this and they make their comments, like, we want to make it clear that this is for this week. Like,
Yes.
I don't want people watching this show being like, these guys are clowns. They're saying they hate Alvin Kamara. Like, that is not the case.
Nope. I'm super high on Alvin Kamara. Actually, I drafted him with my first pick in fantasy. This week though, again, that's what Bill does. He takes away one weapon. And when Michael Thomas isn't on the field, you're going to dare that receiving core to beat you. They're going to try and stop Alvin Kamara.
All right, let's bounce over to another running back here who made this segment in week 1, actually, and we listed him as a dust. His name is Sequon Barkley. What do we think about him this week?
Now is the time to get on the Saquon train before it's too late. The price is right. The time is right. And he's spring loaded, ready to go. We saw a little bit of it last week. He had a nice, long run. That's something that he needed to get going and start feeling like himself again. I'm telling you guys, get on the train this week before it's too late.
I like that. I like
He
that
played
call a lot.
29 snaps week 1. He played 58 week 2.
Yeah,
go.
and the passing down work.
Yeah.
Let's go. Get on.
And he has an elite matchup against the Falcons, who are giving up 40 points a game.
Yep. I smell high ownership or high amount of lineups in my future with Saquon this week.
And his price is reduced. So he's actually cheaper on Fanduel than Clyde Edwards-Helaire is. So I would rather play Barkley over on Fanduel. He's a fantastic Fanduel play.
High talent, low price. That's the formula.
Let's go.
All right. What about this next guy, Najee Harris?
It's hard not to like him again. I mean, he played almost all the snaps again. He didn't play-
Almost,
he-
but not quite.
Almost. I think it was like 3 or 4.
Not quite 100%.
3 or 4 that he missed out on. But I don't know if you guys saw it, but he stiff armed the hell out of that dude and made
That
him
was
look
awesome.
stupid. Man, but that's just a glimpse of
Awesome.
what's to come with this dude for the next few years. Big Ben, his boobs hurt, so we need to get Najee the ball.
Old
His
sore
man
boobs.
boob, man boob.
Old sore
90
boobs. Big Ben Roethlisberger.
97.4% of the team snaps through 2 weeks. The next closest running back is Joe Mixon at 80%.
Wow.
So to say
That's
what
nuts,
Najee's
dude.
doing is rare is
It's
an
nuts.
understatement. Guys don't play this much. So yeah.
Snaps correlate to fantasy points more than anything.
Opportunities.
And
Yeah.
also, like, the Steelers have a history of doing this. Remember what they did with Le'Veon Bell? That was
Yeah.
like his big, question mark when he was looking for the big contract, is how much
Yeah.
burn he had already.
Right.
So Tomlin's going to use his guys, especially the running backs.
Yep.
So yeah,
He,
that's a
want,
good,
he wants to win now. He doesn't want to wait.
exactly. Why rest him up and save him for him to go to another team and win
Right.
there?
Exactly.
All right, you mentioned him, so I'm gonna just throw it out there just for some feedback. But old Big Ben there and his boob. What do we think of him this week?
Well, for actually essentially exactly the reason Miz just said, he's hurting. So he's dust for me. I think they're going to feed Najee. He really hasn't looked very good anyways. He had a decent half of football so far in the year. He was week 1, the second half, he was really good. Other than that, he's looked old. Now you add in an injury. And since he actually hasn't been bad defensively, they're only allowing 22 points per game, only 304 total yards a game. So they've been kind of playing slow and low scoring both weeks so far. So Big Ben is dust for me.
All right, this next guy I've read about on a few articles. He also had a lot of fantasy hype coming into the year. Plays for the Bears, Darnell Mooney.
Mooney to the moon.
Mooney
To all my
Mooney?
for all my crypto bros out there. Mooney to the moon. I mean, the dude came on a little bit at the end of last year, and this season was, supposed to be his breakout year. He did very well in the preseason with Justin Fields at the helm now officially, who he was looking for a lot in the preseason. It's time. He had a pretty up and down first 2 weeks. This last week was a lot better, but look for him to actually come out with a boom this week, because his price is very cheap and very affordable. When Justin Fields there, I'm in.
Yeah,
And
Mike.
I have these snap numbers still pulled up. So Darnell Mooney comes in 4th in the NFL receiving wise, 94.8% of team snaps. So he's on the field a ton. He is the clear number 2 for that team. And with teams concentrating on stopping Allen Robinson's actually only been on the field 85% of snaps. So yeah, you got to like the Mooney play, grab him now while he's cheap, because he is starting to be a name that, seasonal wise, you're starting to see on the pickup list, because people
I'm
are
starting him this week.
Are you?
Yep.
Yep.
And listen, I want people also to listen to the stats that like Devin and Miz are focusing on here, like the percentage of snaps that they're played, how much they're on the field, their targets, not necessarily the fact that Darnell Mooney had 19 catches last week. Like, that's not something to hang your hat on. You want to look for correlations in DFS and where you can get value at people or players who are coming in lower owned for basically their potential or what their potential could be. So a guy's on the field 94% of the time, I think you said, or 98% of the time. I don't remember what you said there.
94.8. So combine the two numbers you said.
There you go. So if he's coming in and he's at 94.8 of the snaps, he's going to get his. The law of averages says he's going to start to pop. And if he hasn't popped yet, that's even more of a reason to play him, even more of a reason why his price is going to go down, which makes us want to go on top more and not play those chalkier plays, especially in your GPPs.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, let's one last guy here. We kind of hinted at him before, but Rondell Moore.
Miz and I are going to fight over him. So I'll go first and then I'll let Miz jump in a little bit. Because he was, one of the first in the entire industry, but Rondell Moore. As a Buckeyes fan, I know him all too well. In his freshman year with Purdue, he essentially single-handedly beat the Buckeyes.
I remember that.
He put up 170 yards, a couple touchdowns. And keep in mind, this is a Buckeyes team in which Terry is in the NFL. So this is a pro secondary, and he just made them look silly. His size is the reason he wasn't drafted earlier, because he's very small. He did battle some injuries in college, so there's concern with that. But this is one of those guys, while he's healthy, there are not many guys in the NFL as explosive as this guy. And we saw it last week. He had that deep ball from Kyler where it was incredible. I mean, and Kyler looks faster than everybody else out on the field. And I thought the same thing about Rondell Moore. He just looked faster than everybody else on the field.
He just has a way of getting open. And once he gets the ball, he's like a running back. He's a lot like Debo. He's a faster version of Debo. That's exactly what he is. He's like a Debo and Anquan Bolden mix, a young Anquan Bolden. Just get this guy the ball. Everybody still thinks Christian Kirk is the number 3, that's not the case. The depth chart might say that, but that's not the case. I was telling one of my friends before the game last week, and he was like, what do you mean Rondell Moore? And I said, I'm telling you, he is the go-to guy. He's the new Anquan Bolden, the new Larry Fitzgerald for that offense, running in the slot, can run outside, can run deep, can do all the screens, can do the end arounds. It makes no sense not to get him the ball. He's one of the most explosive players they have on that offense.
He's also got the formula, if you look at his position right now and what situation he's in, to be really good for a long period of time moving forward in his career, because he's behind DeAndre Hopkins, who is obviously a stud and a veteran. He's behind AJ Green, who's been in the league for 10 plus years, also was super talented, knows what to do. So can learn from those guys, get mature, not be the number 1, take all that burden. And then when those guys' contracts fall off, AJ Green might be gone by next year, honestly, but DeAndre Hopkins will be around for at least another 2 to 3 years. And then when his contract is up, it's like, I'm the guy now. And I have playing for 3 years behind these 2 guys, or learning the ropes from these guys. Like, he's in a good situation. He really is. And he could be
a great offense
guys. It reminds me of, they're not very similar players, but like, it's like when, Antonio Brown was coming up through
exactly right.
Organization.
Exactly right. Same thing.
It could be something similar to that. So it's exciting to see what this guy's going to do. Hopefully he doesn't terrorize the Niners for the next decade, but who knows?
I played him in cash in case.
That was a fan. And I think you want to jump on him again. This is an elite matchup.
Just price.
In theory, they should get ahead in this game. And if Hopkins is banged up, they probably play it safe with him. So the matchup makes sense. The price makes sense. He's going to keep climbing. And the encouraging thing is he only saw 20 snaps week 1. And he still saw a ton of targets on those 20 snaps. He saw 28 week 2. So that's a pretty good increase. And I would guess that he sees even more than that in week 3, probably starts to see in the 30s, because it's hard to ignore what he's doing. And, Kingsbury is not an idiot. He knows how to utilize the weapons he has. So love Rondell Moore this week.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on. Very high on Rondell Moore there.
Ron.
We'll see what Big Ron does for us this week and the rest of the season here. All right, let's move into our final section where we give our expert analysis picks, review of the picks from last week. This section is called Gimme the Loot. Let's take a look first at last week's picks. We had Dev, we'll start with you actually, coming in at 0-3. if I have that right.
Yep, after my big week one. Ugh.
After your big week one brought down to reality real quick. That brings you at a total of 2-4 for the year. A 3-3-3 winning percentage. Miz, you went 2-1. I believe you had the Patriots. You had who else? You had the Packers. And there was somebody else there that you didn't get. Oh, the Steelers. You had the Steelers.
Steelers and Panthers, I think, right?
No, you didn't have the Panthers. You had the Steelers, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Just take my word for it. I'm the producer of the
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
And Dev, we didn't go over your picks, but you had you had the Browns, you had the Bengals, and you had the Rams.
Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't get to brag a little bit. Went 3-0. I had the Ravens +3.5, San Francisco -3.5, and the Patriots -5.5, which when in doubt, bet the Pats against the Jets.
Yeah.
That was kind of a layup. So overall records right now, we got myself at 4-2, and then the both of you at 2-4. So you're gonna have to do a little catching up this week as we get into this this piece of the show. I will go first since I had the big week, and I'll rattle off my picks. This first pick in order of, I guess, least favorite to most favorite. The reason why this pick is a least favorite of mine is because it's a division game, but I am still going to pick it, and that is the Chiefs -6.5 against the Chargers. I feel like the Chargers tend to always play the Chiefs actually pretty tough, but I'm still leaning that the Chiefs can win by a touchdown. If it was 7.5, I don't know if I'd take it, to be honest with you. But the 6.5, I think they cover that. I could see them winning this game, by a touchdown, and it would be a touchdown by like a backdoor cover by the Chargers. I could see them easily being up like 13 points or 10 points, and the Chargers score like a ridiculous, like maybe 2-minute drill touchdown while the Chiefs are playing back. Like I could see that happening, but nonetheless, I'm going Chiefs -6.5 over the LA Chargers at home. My second pick here, my middle pick is the Seahawks -1.5 against the Vikings. I just don't think the Vikings are a good team. As much shit and as much as I rag on the Seahawks, I do know they are a good team. That's partly why I rag on them. If they were bad, I wouldn't even acknowledge them. But I do think they can beat the Minnesota Vikings here by at least, a field goal or so. They are on the road. The Seahawks do have their flaws, but I think they're going to have a bounce back week after that devastating loss last week at home to the Tennessee Titans. And then finally, my most confident pick, and this is actually probably my most riskiest pick, but I'm going the Bucks -1.5 against the Rams. Now, I must admit, when I made this pick, I wasn't aware that Brown would probably be out, but I wrote it down, and now I'm saying it in public on the internet, so I'm sticking to it. I'm going with the Bucks -1.5. I'm gonna roll with it. So those are my three picks. I got the Chiefs -6.5 over the Chargers, the Seahawks -1.5 over the Vikings, and the Bucks -1.5 over the Rams. So I'm taking all favorites, but two of those are pretty low favorites.
Miz, you want to go or you want me to go?
I'll go. The least confident pick that I have would be the Saints +3 at the Patriots. After a debacle and with COVID and not having all their coaches on the sideline last week, I look for the Saints to come back strong, a little bit more mentally prepared, as opposed to what they were last week. I like them +3 on the road at New England. And then my second pick would be the Cardinals -7.5 at the Jaguars. Might even consider buying the hook just for a little bit of security. The Jaguars are just not ready. They're not ready. BAD, bad. Urban Meyer is a douche. He's a fucking dolt, and he's not ready for this yet. He needs to learn a lot still. So I'm going to go with the high-powered offense led by Kyler Murray and Rondell Moore. over the Jaguars on the road. And then my most confident pick, I wanted to actually say the Vikings, but shout out to my boy Andrew DePaula, the long snapper for the Minnesota Vikings. However, it's the Dolphins plus 3.5
Oh, all
against
right.
the Raiders. I said it before in the beginning of the show. The Raiders, they've had a dreams setup thus far. So I actually look for them to get a little bit of a wake-up call here. Jacoby Brissett slinging the ball. So don't sleep on a stack with Jacoby this week. I look for him to sling the ball a little bit farther downfield, more so than Tua has been doing, and really taking command of the offense. And if it plays good enough, you might see a little bit of a controversy moving forward in Miami.
Before Dev gets into his picks, I think I'm starting to pick up a trend with you, Miz, where you really are passionate about the people that you don't like. So we got Miz's list here. And so far, if you're keeping score at home, we got Joe Judge from the Giants. We got Urban Meyer. And then your all-time favorite, Corey Davis. Who's
You just made the list.
That fucking guy.
But I'm going to start keeping track of these guys as the season goes on. That list may be 20 people long by the time we hit week 18.
It'll be great. It'll be a great list.
All right, Dev, what do you got here? Take us home.
All right. I got to agree with the Cardinals, 7.5. The Jags are really bad. And I've never quite understood. This is going to be out there, and I'm going to get roasted for it. Never quite understood that Trevor Lawrence is a can't miss greatest thing since Andrew Luck. Gardner doesn't look any better than Gardner Minshew so far. Granted, it's early. There's not a ton of talent around him. His coach has no clue what he's doing, which breaks my heart because he's a Buckeye. But we'll see. See if he proves me wrong. I'm just not sure he's going to be the superstar that people think he is. But anyways, they're not ready yet. That's not a good team. Still not giving James Robinson the ball enough. They're going to get behind. They're going to panic. Lawrence is going to have to throw the ball too much. Probably throws, another pick or two. And Rondell Moore continues to just light it up. He's going to have another big day. I'm got to keep with my trend. I'm going to pick the Browns again.
There you go.
I'm a little nervous
weeks in
about
a
this
row,
one
baby.
without Landry, but again, now you can start a Devin list too, and Matt Nagy is at the top by a mile. When Fields came in the other day, Matt Nagy is trying to ruin this kid. He played such a conservative style with the play calling, and I just think he's going to do it again. I feel like Matt Nagy doesn't want Justin Fields to succeed. It's ridiculous. He's already named Dalton the starter when healthy. Why? That makes zero sense. You're not.
Yeah, I don't understand the approach there.
It's
who
ridiculous.
are you trying to protect? Are you trying to protect Andy Dalton's psyche? The
Yeah.
guy's been in the league for 12 years.
All he's doing is putting Fields' mental game at risk. And it really, really frustrates me to see because I'm a big Fields guy, again, as a Buckeye. And I've seen him play. The dude's amazing. So again, this is picking against Matt Nagy. I've done it 2 weeks in a row. He burnt me last week. They did end up winning, but that was more so just the Bengals they didn't play very well. So anyways, going Browns minus 7.5. And then, we're going to make things a little fun because I actually like the opposite side of two of your guys' picks.
Okay.
So I was going to consider the Raiders, but I think I'm going to go to the Rams plus 1.5 because of the Antonio Brown news and because of Jalen Ramsey being able to potentially take one of the other massive weapons out of the game a bit. And the Buccaneers are banged up defensively, especially in that secondary. So good luck stopping Cooper Kupp. Robert Woods is going to get going eventually. If the Bucs are going to lose, it's going to be a week like this. So give me the Rams plus 1.5.
All right. I like the challenge there. Two of your spreads are pretty big too. More than a touchdown for the Cards and the Browns. If you are listening to this, we are making these picks on Wednesday, so the lines may change as news breaks closer to Sunday. We're also using the sports book at Fanduel as our source. So there you have it. Those are all our picks. We'll catch back up with everybody on Sunday when we do our live before kickoff show. Anything else before we get out of here, guys, that you guys want to harp on for anybody listening?
And to clarify with the picks, we're not betting experts and we're not pretending to be. This is just a kind of fun thing, talk about the games. Obviously, we all understand football, DFS at a very high level, but the betting world's a completely different animal. Most people are never going to tell you to take, a line -7.5. So
that's right. Bet responsibly.
Yes, don't go bet the bank because 3 guys who aren't big time bettors are telling you to do it. So just to clarify that, we do have a wager team and we are growing that out. And those guys do this. That's all. Don't play DFS. This is for fun and whatnot. So just keep that in mind.
Fast forward to Miz wearing like a satin robe and like covered in chains and jewelry week 18 because he keeps making all the right picks and he's now a guru with his little pimp hat on.
Hey, if you want some prop bets, come holler at me in the DMs.
Or read our Prize Picks article on the website and smash those because Prize Picks gives outrageous props if you get in early enough. Make sure you check out those articles and get in while they're hot and low, honestly, because they tend to move a lot. And we talk about that on the show on Sunday as well. So with that, I'll sign off. That's it for this week's edition of the show before the show. Again, be sure to tune in on Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern time, where the 3 of us kind of talk you through the core plays of the week from a cash perspective, from a GPP perspective, and we recap some of the news that we spoke about here today. Thanks for joining me, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will catch you next week. I'm the host. These guys are the experts, and we are out of here. Cool. We're good.